Dear students, greetings for the day. Today we will study unit load devices. Unit load devices are used as containers for baggage and cargo carried in the holds of suitably dimensioned and equipped aircraft and are secured so that they cannot move within the hold in flight. On passenger aircraft, a record of which checked bags are stored in which ULD is normally kept so that if it is necessary to retrieve a particular item prior to flight, it should be known which ULD it has been loaded in. On cargo aircraft, ULDs are often used in combination with netted pallets. In all cases, the aircraft hold must be equipped with a roller floor and the straps and fittings, accessories, necessary to secure the containers and/or pallets in position. Containers and pallets should be identified by a unique combination of letters and numbers. The IATA standard system comprises 3 leading letters, 4 or 5 numerals and 2 trailing letters. The 3 leading letters define the type of ULD, the 4 or 5 numerals are a unique number allocated by the operator, and the 2 trailing letters show a 2-letter ICAO code which indicated the owner, which may be an airline or a ULD leasing company. Full details of the coding standards are found in the IATA ULD Technical Manual. ULDs may also carry a barcode, which will usually replicate the visible IATA standard code. Containers, pallets, and nets are in most cases required to be approved for use by the Airworthiness Authority for the country where the manufacturer is located. Currently the 2 most commonly used certification standards are FAR, Technical Standards Order C90C, and ISO C90C, though other countries such as China, Australia, etc. have complementary standards for certification of ULD. In order to obtain approval or certification from the authorities, the designer must submit calculations and test results to show that the ULD is able to withstand the loads required while being restrained in the manner laid out in the TSO standards. These loads are extremely high, in order to prove that the design is capable of restraining the contents of the loaded ULD under extreme flight conditions. For example, the upload test on an LD3 container requires that the LD3 structure can survive a load of 9,826 pounds in the upwards direction while restrained by just 4 locations at the base for a period of 3 seconds. A cargo net for a PMC pallet needs to withstand an upload of over 57,000 pounds for 3 seconds. The great majority of ULD are designed and sold as certified ULD, however there are some exceptions. These can be identified by the first letter of their identification code: certified container, non-certified container, certified pallet, non-certified pallet. Certified ULD must be used on all aircraft which have holds that are of insufficient strength to contain their contents during extreme flight conditions and rely on the ULD being locked to the floor of the hold. Non-certified ULD may be used in an aircraft having a hold structure which is deemed capable of withstanding the forces from the contents during extreme flight conditions. An example of this is the B767 series, which not only has holds designed to withstand these forces but also uses a base size for its containers that is unique to the aircraft type, units known as DPE, LD2, DQP, LD4, and DQF, LD8. While airlines may choose to make their own definitions as to exactly what types of ULD may or may not be loaded on their aircraft, it should be remembered that many ULD are transferred between aircraft and even other airlines before reaching their destination. Whether certified or non-certified, No damaged ULD or pallet should be used for aircraft loading purposes. It is the responsibility of the ULD designer to create clear instructions regarding the use of the ULD, and to include them in the operations manual. Additionally, airlines should make operations manual instructions on the correct use of the ULD available to all parties involved in loading and unloading the aircraft. While different manufacturers create different instructions, there are considerable similarities. Every ULD should be inspected before use to determine if any damage has occurred which would render the ULD unserviceable. Baggage and cargo should be loaded evenly, paying attention to maintaining the center of gravity of the load with the 10% of the center of the base. After completing the load, the door of the container must be securely closed. No certified ULD may be used for flight unless its manufacturer's plate, marking, also known as TSO plate, is attached and legible. This plate, marking is required by the rules of the certifying authorities, for example FAA, EASA etc., and is a legal requirement. A ULD not loaded in compliance with these instructions may very well not be able to carry out its defined purpose of providing restraint to the contents in flight, and should not be allowed on board the aircraft. Loading of pallets is similar to loading containers. Particular attention should be given to the cargo net being used to secure the load to the pallet. Cargo nets are subject to severe wear and tear and are often found to be unserviceable. However, there is an all too common tendency to use cargo nets in an unserviceable condition or to attempt some kind of unauthorized repair. Neither of these actions is acceptable. Indeed, any attempt to carry out an ad hoc repair of a damaged ULD using any kind of material or process not specifically defined by the owner airline's manuals is not acceptable. It includes but is not limited to using speed tape, duct tape or similar tapes to close over punctures on container panels or doors, or to hold a container door closed if the proper mechanism is inoperative. Using rope to repair damaged parts of a cargo net or to replace the OEM's lashing line, corner rope. Attaching random two-stud fittings into the edge of a cargo net to secure it to a pallet when the correct fitting is damaged. Certain types of ULD may have OEM-approved temporary repair solutions. If so, these may be used but only as defined by the owning airline's documentation. Always check the unit before starting loading. Any damage found must be below the required damage limits, otherwise the ULD is not airworthy. If the cargo is to be protected from possible rain damage by the use of plastic sheets, these should be taped inside the container. The use of plastic sheeting around the outside of the container is subject to restrictions. The material must meet FAA/EASA burn rate requirements, and the manufacturer's plate, TSO plate, must remain visible. Cargo or bags should be stacked in an interlocking fashion as far as possible. Avoid placing heavy cargo in the outboard section of the container, overhanging section, as this can cause the container to rock or tilt to the outside, causing loading difficulties. Ensure that cargo/baggage in the door side does not extend to the point that the door is not flat when closed. Inspect the loaded ULD to ensure it is within the designated contour. It may appear that a container is within its contour by the nature of its structure. However, there are extremely small clearances between the container and the cargo hold liner in many aircraft, and even a small distortion in the container structure, as may occur due to certain types of damage, or from loading heavy cargo in the overhanging section of the container, can result in the container touching the hold walls, causing considerable damage and grounding the aircraft. Hold liners are fire containment devices, and if punctured, the aircraft cannot take off. Consult airline guidance for any heavy items which may require spreader boards to spread the weight on the base and may require additional tie-down using cargo straps. When closing the door, do not use hammers or other excessive force to operate latches etc., as these will almost certainly not be openable on arrival at destination. Never use knives to cut open a container door. Containers are typically lightweight structures comprising a structure of aluminum extrusions, a relatively thick 2.5 mm to 4 mm aluminum base sheet, aluminum or composite side and roof panels, and a fabric or metal door. By necessity, they are made as light as possible. However, they may be subjected to extremely severe handling conditions. The rapid growth of air travel, especially air cargo, over the past 10 years has resulted in some ULDs being handled in substandard facilities using inappropriate handling practices. Any resulting damage is not only a cost to aircraft operators but may also create a condition which is hazardous to aircraft safety. The various published industry standards covering handling of ULD all call for ULD to be supported at all times on dollies, roller beds, racking. These standards also state clearly that unless a ULD is specifically designed to be handled by a forklift, it should not be so handled, otherwise damage may result. Empty containers should always be stored in suitable container racking, set up for easy transfer to dollies or other handling equipment without the use of a forklift. Outdoors racking should be equipped to prevent containers blowing away in windy conditions. Empty containers should only be stacked where there exists proper training and controls and where the containers are designed to be lifted by forklift. With the exception of a ULD which is approved for forklift handling, they should never be left on the ground even if empty. Empty pallets may be stored in stacks, taking care that cargo nets, if attached, are not damaged during the stacking/unstacking process. Stacks of pallets built up for transfer to another location by ground or air are properly built up on a base pallet, with suitable spacing material between the bottom of the pallet stack and the base pallet, and secured to the base pallet by tie-down straps. When removing pallets approved for forklift truck handling from a stack, this must be done without the fork tines damaging the pallet edge rails. Nets may be permanently attached to a pallet, along one side by locking the fittings in place, or may be completely removable. If removable, they should be stored in a dry location. Loaded ULD must always be stored on a suitable transfer vehicle such as a dolly, a slave pallet container racking within a cargo terminal, ULD handling and storage system on a purpose-built road vehicle or railway wagon, and only be transferred using special purpose equipment equipped with rollers/ball mats or similar support/transfer devices. Specifications for most of these equipments may be found in the IATA Airport Handling Manual. Poor handling may well result in a ULD, which was perfectly serviceable when loading commenced, arriving at the aircraft door in an unserviceable state, resulting in offloads, delays, reloads and other inconveniences. The primary purpose of ULD is to improve flight safety compared to bulk loading of holds. whilst a serviceable ULD, properly loaded, will indeed achieve this. A widespread lack of attention to awareness of ULD damage can result in risk arising from the use of containers that are not within their allowable damage limits. The still common attitude that it doesn't matter as long as the cargo/baggage makes the flight, and a widespread lack of adequate training for those involved in ULD operations can seriously impact on aircraft safety. Damaged and/or improperly loaded ULD present a hazard to operators, aircraft systems and structure, cargo and baggage and GSE. Used correctly, ULD will remain within their safety limits for many years, requiring only minor repairs to wear and tear type damages. Incorrect handling of ULD, particularly the indiscriminate use of forklifts, will result in ULD damage, rendering them unserviceable for use. Failure to observe rules and make it up as we go along approach to ULD operations will result in safety breaches. The solutions to these safety risks are found in provision of correct ULD handling infrastructure, guidance for which can be found in the IATA Airport Handling Manual. While such equipment is not cheap, it is a necessity when it comes to ULD handling. Provision of training to all parties handling ULD to ensure correct procedures are followed. ULD may look simple. Indeed, a person loading ULD may be considered less skilled than, say, a driver. However, the person loading a ULD is actually performing a flight safety critical function, and can put the lives of all on board the aircraft at risk. On-the-job training delivered by a worker who likely has had no formal training himself is not a sufficient method to manage the risks associated with ULD operations. Sufficient diligence by all parties in the ULD process to ensure that safety breaches are not allowed just this time but are caught and rectified each time. Letting a badly loaded ULD go just this time is as dangerous as ignoring any other defect on an aircraft and should never be permitted. An unserviceable ULD should never make it to the aircraft door. The defects should be picked up at the preloading inspection and the ULD rejected at that stage by having suitably trained staff carrying out the loading process. ULD specification: Cathay Pacific Cargo has a range of specialized unit loading devices, ULDs, for your needs, ensuring your cargo arrives to its destination in the same good condition as it boarded at the origin. Containers are for the carriage of most general cargo, passenger baggage and mail. Pallets are flat sheets of aluminum on which shipment pieces are stacked. Each pallet is usually covered with a net to secure loose pieces. P1P, PAG, PEB, PGA, PLA, PMC, PQP, P6P. Car racks. Car racks are based in pallet PGA. A second car can be stacked above the first one on a single rack. Containers are mainly for the carriage of perishable cargo, for example, fruits, vegetables, flowers, fishes, etc. Their door lock is capable of accepting Australia door seal and ice box.